streaming, even though the show hasn't started.
Okay.
And now I'm going to wait for what they call the handshake. Okay, we got the handshake from Twitch. We got the handshake from YouTube. We got the handshake from Facebook. So, are you ready to start the show?
Yep.
Okay, so start your timer.
Okay.
Is it started?
Yes.
Clap your hands, and after you clap your hands, you are on the air.
Welcome to Talking Peace. I'm your host, Deidra EmEl, Executive Director of the WNY Peace Center. We would like to say thank you to Think Twice Radio, our producer, Richard Wicca, and WBNY 91.3 FM Radio. So today's topic is dealing with mental health for activists. And before we go into that, I would like to make sure we have a Thanksgiving for the earth and for the creatures of the earth, for air, clean air, for our mountains, for each person and human being on this planet, each animal and bird and sea creature. We would like to give thanks for all that is living, for the things that are inanimate but have energy, for all the pieces and of the earth that makes us one. We would like to give thanks. So today we're talking about mental health for activists. And I wanted to share an article from a website called assembly.malala.org. Now, Malala Yousafzai is a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, the youngest Nobel Peace Prize laureate. And if you remember her years ago, she spoke out for girls' education in India. And she was shot and survived the shooting and continued to speak out for female and women's education in India and around the world. So they have a website, and on this website, an article. This is a beautiful article. I believe is well written, very extensive, written by Tess Thomas. It says, protecting your mental health and well-being while speaking out. So this was written in January of this year. And as everyone knows, even the past 2 years, it's just been an onslaught of activity, of I think, oppression has been around, but many things have come to surface, have boiled over in these past few years. And activists on every capacity have come to capacity within themselves, their families, and their communities. And some of them are facing burnout. And so I wanted to just share a little bit about what things activists face and what we can do to for ourselves as activists, and for if you have activists in your family, or a person that's doing so much, what you can do for them. So this is also a branching of our Embracing Buffalo. A few months ago, we had a series called Embracing Buffalo that we co-sponsored with UB School of Social Work and the Center for Mind Body Medicine with Dr. Sabrina Njai and Dr. Carol Penn, and Dina Adler and others. And one of the main things that we wanted to address was the healing and the restoration of the healers and leaders and first responders after 514. And so healing is a process, and we have to continue the process. And it takes days, it takes weeks, it takes months, and for some things, it will take years to completely heal from a trauma, a traumatic event. So this is a toolkit which provides young women. Well, the website is a toolkit which provides young women with information and resources to take care for themselves while they're taking care of others. So this is the purpose of this site and for this article. So I wanted to pull out some pieces and talk about them a little bit. So, and this article is a collaboration of young women from around the world. So I love to see that everyone, had a voice and shared what they did for self-healing and what some of the things that, to look out for. So one of the first things, and what Black and Brown and people of color, or just marginalized groups are beginning to face. Well, not beginning. It has always been for a long time. I don't think that some of the organizations or businesses or what have you want to do this, but one of the things we have to protect ourselves from is tokenism. So what is that? Whether, let's say you are an organization, and this is, again, this article is speaking towards young women in particular. So that is, their angle, but many of these things can be applied across the board. But basically, you have oftentimes leaders and officials, companies may put, whether you're a woman or whether you're, a Black woman or whether you are transgender or whatever part of marginalized society you come from, and they say, hey, we want to have more inclusion. We want to have more diversity. So we need you to represent us in this area or that area. And the majority of the group may not be like you. So they will use you as the face of the organization or the face, on a commercial or something like that, to show that, hey, we're open to this, these types of groups as well. However, there's some pros and cons, of course, of this situation. So for instance, whether it's formal or informal positions, in order to give the appearance of inclusion, okay, we already talked about that. So being tokenized in this way can leave young activists feeling hurt and frustrated that their time has been wasted and that their opinions and efforts aren't taken seriously by those in power. Now that you don't have to be a young activist to feel that way. You can just be a part of what they will call a marginalized group or what have you, and feel like, hey, am I just a face, or do what I have to say really matter? So this is one thing to consider. Another thing to consider is discrimination. We may, as activists, might experience prejudice based on gender or our race or our ethnicity or our age, whether young or old, our abilities, or because of our many other identities, maybe other people we may associate with in our communities. Discrimination can pervade our own movement, a space you perceive, perhaps once believed to be safe. This compounds stress and anxiety that we may feel as a result of our work. And this is unfortunate, but it happens. Discrimination can also take different forms. So you may not say, hey, I hate, women or what have you. A person doesn't have to say that. But as we have learned, or many people have learned, I would say some people have known for many years, but again, we are becoming more aware as a society, more woke, in quote unquote, that even language have discriminatory undertones. Okay, so for example, the article mentions discrimination against, mentions tone policing, failure to make events accessible, or lack of media coverage, meetings during hours that individual cannot accommodate, not accommodating non-English speakers, restrictive dress codes, and more. So, and these are another word for some of this. Some of these things that are happening is called microaggressions. So these are indirect or subtle forms of discrimination that reinforce systems of oppression. So I think this is very interesting. Like I said, it can happen in many different circles. It can happen in relationships. And because it's a part of our culture, we don't always recognize it's happening. For example, and you can look at studies have shown this over the years. Let's say you have a couple of men and women speaking in a group. The men may talk over the women that are talking in the group, and eventually the women may go silent because they have been overtalked. The man usually, is louder or what have you, because of the tone of the voice, and or they're discredited, and without even trying to do so. So even though this man may love this other woman or have, so much respect for her, just in our tones and how we communicate can show microaggressions and policing of others without us even thinking about it. So therefore causing the woman at that point to feel like she's not heard, that her point doesn't matter, or that this is not a space for her to share her information. So that's just one example, but it happens many times, and this builds stress. This builds, these are long-term stressors. And there's a quote here from a young lady in India. She says, I started voicing my opinion on issues that matter to me at around the age of 15. There are a lot of labels that come with being a young activist. I was regarded as being loudmouth. Some of my opinions weren't considered ladylike. That made me feel like I was under constant scrutiny. And I am pretty sure a lot of fellow young activists have experienced the same. So there's just something to think about, especially as we work together. And hopefully, as we share information and protests and so on, are we really being heard? And, are we still being judged, by our appearance in so many ways? Another thing to look at that I want us to look at is the lack of inclusive language. These are words that have the power to engage, educate, and inspire, but they also have the power to oppress, alienate, and stereotype. Sometimes discriminatory language choices are purposeful, and sometimes they are unintentional. But even if accidental, when people don't understand the origins, histories, and meanings of the words they use, they can cause real harm to you and your community. So, for an example, when people mispronounce your name or a failure to use particular pronouns that you prefer, can make a person feel undervalued or not seen. Code switching. This is the process of shifting from your style of speech, appearance, behavior, and expression in ways that will optimize the comfort of others in exchange for equal treatment and opportunities. Now, this is a very interesting one because I believe that many African Americans have experienced this, and we continue to just do this to this day. And basically, you kind of switch how you speak. You switch your language. You switch your posture. You switch, different things that you would do. Let's say amongst where you in a group of majority African Americans, what have you, and when you go, let's say, into a bank where there's maybe a majority of white Americans or so on, you kind of switch into a different. You change your language, you change how you walk, you change how you talk. So I'm not sure if other ethnicities and cultures may do this, but I know in the African American community is very prevalent, and we have a long history of why we have done that, even for protection of our life. So, but these types of things that we encounter from day to day, as people that speak out and that are more in the forefront in our communities for just standing up on different issues, these kinds of things can lead us to this, can build stress, and it leads to burnout, which eventually we say, okay, no more, we give up. So we don't want to do that. And we want people, those activists and so on in our lives that continue to work for the people, we want them to be encouraged. We want them to be uplifted and refueled. Okay. So another thing that can contribute to stress is intergenerational trauma. Now, this point of this intergenerational trauma has been talked a lot more about in the last, I would say, maybe 5 years. In the 20th century, psychologists started observing a phenomenon where trauma is passed down from generation to generation. Descendants of a person who has experienced a terrifying event show emotional and behavioral reactions to the event that are similar to those of the person. Events that may lead to intergenerational trauma include displacements, legacies of racism and enslavement, natural disasters, gender-based violence, parental incarceration, divorce, alcoholism, or child abuse, just to name a few. Speaking out against the injustices of your community that your community face and has faced in the past can trigger or exacerbate intergenerational trauma in many activists, young or old, making it difficult to practice activism without experiencing painful emotions. So, fellow activists, pay attention to what triggers you. There's a difference when you're angry, you have this righteous indignation, right? And you're angry about this particular issue that you want people to hear, to hear what's being said, or you want the politicians to know, what's going on, what have you. There's a difference with focused anger, like having it, this is why I'm angry. It's not personal, but we're dealing with the issue. And then there's a personal feeling of attack that you experience. And some people say, well, it's all personal. Yes, it could be. However, when we are thinking more logically and we're not making decisions off of our emotions, we can be more effective in what we are demanding as far as rights, as far as, whether civil rights, human rights. We can be more effective advocates when we have when we are healed from within, and we can use that hurt and pain that we have healed from. We use those as examples. We use that compassion that we have to push us forward, and not let the anger and the frustration beat us down personally, and abuse us continually because we haven't dealt with it. So there's something to consider: intergenerational trauma. Another one is called imposter syndrome. This is when you doubt your abilities or feel like a fraud and like you don't deserve your success. And it can be hard to push your activism forward and assume a leadership role within your movement. This article says women, particularly women of color, are more likely to experience imposter syndrome and not believe in themselves due to lack of representation, not seeing themselves or anyone that looked like them, as well as pervasive racist and sexist stereotypes. This is unfortunate. All the challenges in the previous section and the many others are not listed can impact our mental health in a variety of ways. So I want to talk a little bit more about the conditions now that activists can experience. So, of course, we experience stress. So what does that look like? It's physical, it's emotional, it's intellectual. We can perceive things being said as threats sometimes, and it's not really a threat, or we just feel like this pressures. We feel all these demands just heavy upon us, like we can't come from under it. Stress often results in feeling overwhelmed or unable to cope. Ongoing or long-term stress can impact our physical, our psychological, and emotional health. This leads to trouble sleeping, high blood pressure, our weakened immune system, anxiety, headaches, depression, panic attacks. If we're as activists, and we're human beings, first of all, if we're experiencing all these things, how can we be strong enough to advocate and fight for someone else if we have not taken care of ourselves? So make sure you pay attention to some of the symptoms of stress. Another symptom of stress, when people, little eye twitches can occur. And pay attention when the eye twitches happen, because when they happen is connected to your subconscious, and it says, now this thing here, every time you have to deal with this, it stresses you out. So it's not, you can either decide not to deal with it, or how can I deal with this better so that it's not a stressor? Okay. For activists, passion for our cause can lead to overwork, and continual exposure to inequalities can deplete us. Our work might require a great deal of mental, physical, emotional energy with little reward or progress. All of this can lead to higher rates of burnout. Symptoms of burnout include, it's the same thing, headaches, lack of sleep, fatigue, a cynical outlook, emotional detachment, sense of inability to cope, reduced rationality, and more. If we are to take care of our communities, we must first take care of ourselves. So the stress and someone leads to anxiety. Anxiety can lead to increase in blood pressure. It increases our heart rate, irritability, trouble breathing, dizziness. If you are experiencing these things, stop and reevaluate what you are doing and how you can do what you can do better so that you can be here. We need you here, fellow activists and advocates and people that, just speak out. We need you here to continue to be a voice for the voiceless, to continue to build platforms for those who have a voice, but no one's listening. We need you around so that we can support those who are marginalized in the society. We need all of you around, every color, every ethnicity. We need everyone that has compassion and love in their hearts to be around for the long haul. So this is another quote from this young lady in Canada. Two young ladies, they say, over this past year, we were doing our university studies, extracurriculars on campus, running campaigns for our nonprofit, volunteering with the external nonprofit organizations, and even had summer jobs to gain experience in the career fields we want to pursue. Sometimes the workload is so much that we only get a little bit of time to ourselves at night before we go to sleep and continue to work again the next day. Especially with the stress of doing school online and professors not being as accessible in the online world, we face anxiety about whether we would be able to get all of our work done for our various commitments. We have slowly developed a better routine, however, and recognize that breaks and self-care are necessary to recharge and will actually help us do all of our work in a better way. And when we don't take these breaks, I think about the labor movement, and Labor Day just passed, and part of the labor movement was the workers and the union striving so hard for us to get the weekend, for people to get the weekend. Why? Because we needed time just from working to rest and to recharge. We needed at least one day, if not several, to rest and recharge. Okay, so this is important. People have fought and died for people to be able to rest, okay, recharge, and then come back to work, right? So it's the same thing for those who fight for freedom and who fight against oppression. There's a time for fighting, it's a time for protest, it's a time for rallying, it's a time for lobbying, but then there's also a time for breathing, for mindfulness, for meditation, for prayer, for those that have a faith. There's a time, and this time it's not, how do you say it? It's not, you're not wasting time being out there. But when you are renewed, guess what? Creativity happens. And when we have creativity, we have problem solving. When we have problem solving, we know what we need to advocate for. We know what we need to say, to say, give us this instead of that. We can think clearly. We can take care of our bodies, build our immune system up, and we have a clear focus on what lies ahead, what our fight is ahead. So that even goes into eating properly. And I am probably preaching to the choir, but I know while I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me, especially. I'm talking to me. So I don't have everything in the bag. I don't have it all wrapped up and together. But I have to try every day and be mindful that I, take a shower, that I get in the bath, that I brush my teeth, that I eat. Basics. Because when we're fighting and fighting and fighting, and we're always giving so that others can have, we tend to forget the basic things that helps to keep our minds a little bit clearer every day. And when you do those things, appreciate that about yourself. Say, you know what, this is good. You did a good job, Deidra. Did you take time to pray today? Did you take time for some breath work? It takes less than a minute to do these kinds of things. But if we're doing it throughout the day, we are sustainable, right? And hopefully, as we do it better and better, we are more than sustainable. We are truly being in bodies that are truly livable, and that we can, just blossom into what we are supposed to be doing. We talk about the environment being sustainable, doing things for sustainability. But what are we trying to sustain or maintain? Sometimes we're trying to just sustain the bare minimum. Let's just make sure we have a little bit of land and keep some parts of the water, unpolluted. If we just do these basic things. But that's not living, whether it's for the earth or for our bodies. So we have to look at what can we do to make a better living situation, more than sustainable for our bodies, for our communities, and for the earth. So let's just consider those things. Now, another thing to consider to help us deal with stress is saying no, right? Understanding what you're agreeing to before you agree to it. Wow. Like I said, I'm preaching to myself. I have had so many experiences with this. Excuse me. Part of this situation is, for some people, maybe a lack of self-esteem. For some people, it's, wanting to, be important in other people's lives. And what happens at the end of the day is that, you become stressed out in trying to please people. And once you think that you've done all that you can to please them and they're still not pleased, what does that leave you with? Emptiness. You're not recharged and refilled. Your self-esteem is now lower because you haven't made the other individual happy. So, that's a really important piece here, is agreeing, knowing what you're agreeing to before you agree to it, and knowing when to say no, and what to say yes to, what to say yes to fill your cup, and what to say yes to that is in focus to deliver the part of the liberation struggle you are on. What to say yes to in that area, So, as activists, the article says that we are tempted to agree to every opportunity that can advance our cause. But saying yes all the time can leave us feeling exhausted and overextended, underappreciated, It can also prevent you from prioritizing what is important to you, both in your activism and in your personal life. Learning to say no is a necessary tool. Before agreeing to any new project, event, speaking engagement, or opportunity, figure out if it's worthy of your time. It's not that the cause isn't worthy. It's not that the cause isn't worthy, but is it worthy of your time at this time in this place? Okay. Recognize what season of your life that you're in, what season of the year that you're in, what you're working on, and what you can really say yes to. Saying no isn't selfish. It allows you to create boundaries and ensures you are able to succeed at the opportunities you say yes to, and that you can have a balanced, healthy life. If someone has a hard time understanding why you declined an opportunity to protect your time and energy, they might not be someone you want to work with in the first place. So that's just something to think about. I'm not going to tell you what to say no to. I'm just saying that it helps. It helps a great deal. So that goes into our setting boundaries. So this is all for our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health. We have to learn how to set boundaries. We have many obligations. We have many hobbies, activities, social commitments, and our activism. And, sometimes we may, because of so much going on, we may not fill out the emails right away or return emails right away. We may not return a phone call right away. And so some people may be left like, what, you don't care or what have you. So I think that when we say it clear, like what season we're in or what's happening with us, and this is what we can do and this is what we can't do at this time, people will respect it. People will respect it. So it's important for all of us to communicate. Again, I'm speaking to myself, to communicate with our colleagues, our fellow advocates and community leaders and family members what we can and cannot do. Let them know how we prefer to. We should let people know how we prefer to be contacted sometimes. I'm personally a homeschooler during the day, so it's not that I can't do any business or any work, but you know what? I'm not taking phone calls, but you can text or email between these times and that time, and between these times. So those are setting boundaries. Another thing to do is taking breaks to recharge. So we're just talking about this, like taking time off, and what that looks like. So, and I was just talking to a wonderful elder, friend of mine, which is a food activist, nutrition activist. And yes, so it's so good. You know what? I'm just seeing some of these messages, and yes, one person says it would be nice if they got rid of the pros program and brought back mental health social clubs. That's interesting. Yes, I didn't even know those existed, but yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Or, type it in because we're on Facebook Live right now. Or you can email me at director@WNYpeace.org. But thank you so much for your comments. So, so it's mental health, taking care of our mental health is vital to our life. It's vital. So we can't discard it. Okay. I'm just breezing through the article a little bit and just jumping around here. One young lady says, she's in India, she says, I wish someone would have told me that it's okay to take a break. When you walk into the space of advocating for what's right, you want to be everywhere. You have an urge to be all out there. As I learned over the years, activism is a collection of efforts which don't have to be loud. All they ever need to be is consistent, and you can get to decide the pace. I think that's just so wonderful. And this is a 20-year-old young person that has learned so much, so much in so short of a time that us, 40 and 60, so on, are still fighting with being out there and, always, being on the go and having to do. But we have to set our own pace so that we can be consistent. We can carry on, in the race. We can go the long haul. Okay, we need to be able to go the long haul, and not just ourselves. We have to work together. I like that she said it was a collection of efforts. This is what I think also helps with mental health, is knowing that you're not in it alone, knowing that you're not doing it alone, and that everyone has a piece of the puzzle, okay, to create change. So just know what your part is. And that may take some time to figure that out, but we have to figure that out. Another point to look at and make sure we are on our time here is social media, stepping away. I know I'm on a few pieces, on a few platforms tonight. And, you'll be hearing us on Monday on WBNY 91.3. But, it's okay to step away from social media at different times. And, it's for so many different reasons. Before the last 20 years, the way we received information, right, was whether through television, reading, socializing, the news, we had certain pieces that we could kind of control when we received it. We could turn it off. We can leave the group, what have you. With social media, yes, we can turn it off. We can, we don't have to involve ourselves in the chat, what have you. But when almost everyone has a phone, these little computers in our hands, in our pockets, in our purses, and it constantly beeps and tings and clings, and you're pulled in one way or another. Okay. And sometimes that does not give us time to think and to be in the now and in the present. We're trying to always keep up with the newest word, statement, tweet, video, short. We're always trying TikTok. We're always trying to keep up with the newest, what went viral. Especially as activists, we have to stay on top of what's happening, right? Especially in the areas that we're working in. So we can, be on it, and we can, fight it while the iron is hot. But our bodies don't work that way. We cannot keep that up. So when we don't keep that up, and people are used to seeing us consistently involved in, whether it's in social media and so on, and then all of a sudden they don't see us, it's like, well, are they lacking in their job? Do they really care about us? Now people are like, can I trust them? Are they really doing the work? No, we can't. Let's find our own pace, our own consistency that we can work at and help people to trust what we do. Okay, help people to trust the work and trust that we have have a pure heart towards what we are doing and advocating. Okay. So one of the other things they say about social media here is logging off social media for a bit allows you to focus on yourself, your ideas, and your priorities. I would say it kind of helps calm the chatter. Even sometimes stop answering the phone. Help calms the chatter, all the extra voices coming at you of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, how other people felt. You kind of have to close that off for a little while and just, I say, be in nature. Listen to the trees, listen to the crickets, listen to the birds, feel the wind, and help to clear your mind so that you can reassess your priorities, while also freeing up some time. Okay. They say, did you know that in 2020, the average daily social media usage of internet users around the world was more than 145 minutes per day? Ouch. So on social media, not just researching something or reading something, just social media alone. Hi, Jean. Welcome. I see you on our chat there. So it says, if digital detox sounds difficult, start by taking small steps, set usage limits on certain apps, or remove notifications altogether. If it's safe to do so, try going somewhere without your phone, or put your phone in an inaccessible place in your bag while you're out, allowing you to enjoy some screen-free time. Be in the moment amongst your community with your people. That's what the social media is all about, right? It's connecting with people. So we have to put the phones aside for a little bit, put the electronics aside for a little while, and be in the moment. Be with the real people in person. Be with nature. Be with the real environment in person. And that can refresh you and reinvigorate you as well. So we think of ways that we can connect with people, and activities that don't connect with people, and doing activities that don't involve screens, because it's just so prevalent nowadays. And it's just easy to fall into it. It's very easy to fall into it for adults and youth. Okay. And make sure. Okay. So we're coming to a close, but I just wanted to just remind us that mental health, this show was entitled Mental Health for Activists, because we tend to forget about ourselves and the work that we do. We forget to eat. Something's, worrying us. We can't sleep. How can I help this person in our community, or help, this part of our community get their voices heard? How can we change this policy? How can we change this law? How can we deal with this international drama, trauma, war? And it can lead to depression. It can lead to, what's the use? Melancholy. And so we have to make sure we take a time out when we're kind of starting to feel that way, to take a step back and reevaluate what's happening. Why are we thinking this way? To refill our cup. That may be, reading something that is actually inspirational. It may be listening to music that gives us encouragement. These are things we can do throughout the day. It doesn't take a lot, but we need to listen to our bodies, listen to our intuition, listen to your stomach. When you have that gut feeling, okay, what is that gut feeling saying? Okay, why do I have this gut feeling every time, I deal with this issue or I deal with this person or what have you? Is it good or bad for me? And so, you do that personal check-in. And why? Because we need you around. Fellow activists, teachers, educators, justice workers. We need you around. But for you to be around, we need you to take care of yourselves. It's not selfish. Okay? It's not selfish to preserve yourself, to preserve others. So with that, I just wanted to just thank you all for joining us today. And this article comes from assembly.malala.org. And, coming from the Peace Center, we, usually see us, protesting and rallying and so on. But, we have to have and build peace from within. It has to come from within. And, we have to be healed in order to heal others. Have we been doing that? Have we been working on our own work, on ourselves? Or are we speaking from a place of hurt because we still hurt? So we want to be more effective. So let's make sure that we are working on ourselves and our healing journeys, whatever that may be for you, so that we can be more effective in the work that we do. So make sure, look out for our announcements. Look out for November 11th. We have a wonderful young woman named Leah Penniman, coming for our 55th annual dinner. It was just a fundraiser, and it will be at the UB School of Architecture, Hayes Hall. We're working with UB Food Lab, and I believe it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful event. Leah Penniman is a co-director and farmer at Soulfire Farm. And, we're going to be talking about land legacy, ecology, economic justice, environmental justice, how one cannot be without the other. And so November 11th, go to our website, WNYpeace.org, to get more information. And so we have been talking peace, mental health for activists, mental health for everyone. It's very important. But as we work for one another, let us make sure we take care of ourselves. So until next time, thank you to WBNY 91.3 FM and Think Twice Radio. Until next time, we hope for peace in your hearts, love in your hearts, so that we can activate true justice in the world. Have a great day.